students, I'm back with your next class. In today's class, we're going to discuss population interactions. Now, we have been discussing in this whole chapter regarding habitat, isn't it? So, you know, a habitat consists of many species. Now, can you imagine a habitat anywhere on Earth where only a single species survives? It is kind of not possible, right? That a single species will survive and sustain its life on its own. At least another species is definitely required which the one can feed up, right? The first one has to feed upon another species. So at least that species has to be available. Also, if you're thinking about plants, that at least plants can survive on their own because they're autotrophic. Even they cannot survive on their own because even they are going to be dependent on various microorganisms, the soil microbes, which will allow decomposition. By that decomposition, organic matter will be formed, and that's how nutrients will be available to the plants, isn't it? So in that case, in short, a single species cannot sustain its life by its own in any habitat. So that means in any ecosystem that you study, there will be various species that will be interacting among each other in different manner to form a biological community, isn't it? So these different interactions that can be seen among different species can be of various types. So in this section, which is the last section of this chapter, we are going to mainly discuss all the different types of interactions which species can have among themselves. That is interspecific, interactions by which different species will finally interact and will be able to sustain their life in their own habitat. Okay, so let's see what it is all about. See here, the type of interactions where population of two or more different species interact are called interspecific interactions. Okay, now these interactions are of three types. So they mainly can be categorized into three divisions. First is beneficial, where two species which are interacting will be benefiting each other. So it's a beneficial or positive interaction. Another type of interaction is detrimental. That means negative interactions where both the species which are interacting will be harming each other. And the last one is neutral, where neither harm nor benefited. The species will be neither harmed nor benefited. It's a neutral interaction that would be taking place. Okay. Now I have made here a list of such interactions which can be of 7 types. Okay, and they fall under the 7 categories which are very, very important for your exam. Okay, in NEET also maximum questions from this chapter has been asked from this population interactions. So that much important this topic is. All of you, that's why be very careful while we discuss it. Okay, so let's see the first one. First one is a species A, species B interacting. So both the species are plus plus. Plus plus means positive or profitable, isn't it? So beneficial. So in that case, plus plus interaction is mutualism. Another plus plus interaction, the second one, is proto-cooperation. So we'll be discussing in this part 2 types of beneficial interaction, that is mutualism and proto-cooperation. Okay, next one, third one is plus and zero. Plus and zero. Plus means one of the species, say species A, will get benefited, whereas species B will remain neutral. When it's neutral, I will denote it with 0. So neutral means species B will neither be harmed nor be benefited. Okay, so such an interaction is commensalism. Alright, next, number 4 is minus minus. That means both the species will be equally harmed, and this one is only one. Negative negative interaction is only one that we find in nature, and that is competition. Okay, next, number 5 is plus and minus. That means one species will be benefited, another will be at loss, and it is predation. Okay, you already know predation means one will be a predator, another will be a prey. So one will be eaten up by the other. So in that case, one is getting food, so positive, another is getting eaten up, so another is dying. So in that case, it is negative. Number 6, again a plus and minus type of interaction. One will be benefited, the other will be harmed. So here the interaction is parasitism. Okay, And number 7, the last one is minus and 0. Means one of the species will be harmed and the other will remain neutral. It will neither be harmed nor be benefited, and the interaction is amensalism. Alright, so these are the 7 different types of interactions we are going to discuss in details with various important examples. The examples are going to be very important for your exam. So, of all the different types of population interactions, let us start with predation. So, all of you know predation is a type of population interaction which is plus and minus type, where one is the predator, another is the prey. So the predator is getting positively affected, it is getting the food for itself, whereas the prey is getting eaten up, it is dying, so it is getting negatively impacted. Okay, so here see, one species here benefits, that is the predator, and the other is going to have a detrimental effect, that is the prey. Okay, now it is a natural way of transferring energy fixed by the plants to higher trophic level. Of course, without the predator-prey relationship, there will be no energy transfer happening from one trophic level to another. It's a very important and a natural way how energy transfer occurs between one trophic level to another or in the food chain. Okay. Next, a few common examples of predation would be, see, tiger and deer. That's the most classic or the most common example. Sparrow and seeds. This usually won't come in your mind because when we talk about predation or when we talk about predator and prey, we usually think of carnivorous animals, isn't it? As if an animal eating up on the another one. We usually don't consider it to be sparrow or seeds or even herbivorous animals feeding upon plants. This usually don't come to our imagery, right? But then these also are important examples of predation. Sparrow feeding upon seeds, like the animal here feeding upon the newly developed seeds which would have otherwise given rise to a new plant. Likewise, animals like the herbivores feeding upon plants, that is also a type of important predation. Okay, understood that? Now, predators play important roles in the ecosystem. Now, predators, even if they are, predators, even if they are seeming to be destructors, isn't it? Someone which is eating up the another species, but then they also are playing very important ecological roles. What are they? Namely, 3 of the roles I have mentioned here. The first one is transfer energy across the trophic levels. This already I have told you, it's very obvious because one will eat the other. That's how the food chains are formed, isn't it? So energy transfer between the trophic levels would be only possible by predation. Next, keep prey population under control. Now this is also very important. If the prey population goes uncontrollable, or the prey population is too high, in that case also there will be other imbalances that can be occurring in the nature, and that also would lead to destruction. So in that case, keeping the prey population in check is very, very important, and that can be only done by the predator. See here, like example is prickly pear cactus. Okay, this was introduced in Australia in 1920s, but it was brought under control later on by cactus feeding predators, that is a moth. So what happened is, because in Australia the natural predator of the prickly pear cactus was not available, that's why the prickly pear cactus would grow very, very rapidly, and then it will lead to the extinction of many native species. So to control that, okay, so to bring about that balance, again a moth, that is the natural predator of prickly pear cactus, it was brought from its natural habitat and introduced in Australia. That's how prickly pear cactus's population could be brought in check. Otherwise, it would not have been possible. Okay. Next, biological pest control methods. Okay, that is also based on the ability of the predator to regulate prey population. See, you have come to know that there are various types of chemical pesticides or insecticides and all of that available, isn't it? By the help of those chemicals, we can easily eradicate the pest. But then problem is that if we use that in the long run, the soil will get polluted. and then again soil fertility if gets lost, agricultural plots being already less, that would again be creating a lot of problems that we won't be able to solve. So in that case, the natural way how we can easily get rid of the pest without causing any kind of pollution or in an eco-friendly manner, that is only done by the predation. Natural predator if available, it will be target oriented, only the target prey will be killed, and that too in a very natural or an eco-friendly manner without causing any harm or any kind of pollution to the soil. So that's also a very, very important thing or a benefit of predation. Next, maintain species diversity in the community. Now, how can predation help in maintaining a species diversity? See, predators help to maintain the species diversity by reducing the competition among competing prey species. Now, the prey species also have competition among themselves, isn't it? That's called intra-specific competition. There are two types of competition that can be seen in nature. If it is between two different species, we call it interspecific competition. And another is within the members of the same species. We call it intra-specific competition. And intra-specific competition is much more acute or serious in nature. Why? Because those members will have exactly the same requirement and they will go after the same resource. That's how they will be competing much more acutely. Understood that? Now, if suppose there is no predator, prey's population will become too high. Too high population means what? They will now go after the same resource and the resources will keep getting limited. The more the resources will keep getting limited, the prey's intra-specific competition will keep increasing, and that's how one prey will be now bound to kill the other. That's how they will be again getting extinct, or their populations imbalances will start. So that can be maintained, all the species or all the members of a population can remain in harmony within a balance among each other. There has to be some predator to keep the population in check. So that is how predation is going to be maintaining species diversity or biodiversity in nature. That's very, very important for you to understand. So now let us discuss a few important facts regarding predation which will make this interaction much more clear to you. Okay? So first, prudent predator. Prudent means something that cares, okay? Something that's humble, okay? So here I have written prudent predator, as if the predator is caring or it's humble. And it's something that doesn't make any sense, isn't it? Predator is the one which is eating the prey, killing it completely. How can the predator be having any kind of caring nature anyways, isn't it? So what we mean by this, when we say that prudent predator, what we mean is that the predator, it will not be killing the prey for fun. It will not be over-exploiting the prey. It will be only hunting for the prey when absolutely required or when it is completely hungry. Otherwise, it will simply not be killing the prey. Understood that? And why that would be so? Why the predator will keep its exploitation of the prey in check? That's only because it has to think about the future or in the long run as well. Okay, if in case the prey population is completely extinct due to over-exploitation, sooner or later even the predator won't be having any food, and due to lack of food even the predators will have to die, isn't it? So keeping in mind about this thing, the predator will always be prudent. It will never over-exploit the prey. Understood? Next. Evolution of various defenses or adaptations in the prey. Now, if the nature has given certain kind of interactions like predations, and it will allow one organism to kill the other, of course it will have to also give certain kind of adaptations or evolutions in the prey populations as well. Otherwise the prey population might have a chance or a risk to become extinct. So in that case we can see various types of adaptations in plants and animals both, which are the prey species. In them we can see various adaptations which act as a defense against the predator. To protect themselves from the predator, they will show certain kind of adaptations which are as follows. Let us first start with the animals and then we'll discuss the plants. Okay. So see here, first animals. The first one is camouflage. Okay, before we discuss, I should tell you one thing very clearly here. These animal adaptations or even the plant adaptations, these are very important for your exam. Okay, so let's start. First, camouflage. Now, camouflage, you have come to know about this term many a times maybe, isn't it? Camouflage means when an organism would try to, hide itself in its surrounding by, intermingling with the background so that it does not come under the notice of the predator. Understood? Let's see. Cryptic appearance of an organism similar to the objects found in its surrounding. So, in its surrounding, whatever things or objects are found, accordingly it will try to resemble itself so that it won't be falling under the notice of the predator, and that's what is camouflage. Okay. Now, it commonly occurs in the insects and frogs. Okay. Next, chemical defenses. Now, some prey are very poisonous and highly toxic. And because they are highly toxic or poisonous or even sometimes very distasteful, they would be avoided by the predator, and that's how they can save themselves from predation, isn't it? Like, see here, I've given here an example. It's very important an example. That's of monarch butterfly. This monarch butterfly, in its body, it contains a chemical or a toxin, you can say, because of which it becomes highly distasteful, and hence it is readily avoided by the predator. Understood? Now, this chemical will be acquired by the monarch butterfly. It is not genetically inherited from the parent. Okay? It is not going to be present in the monarch butterfly from birth. No, it will be something that will be acquired by the monarch butterfly during its caterpillar stage. Okay, during its caterpillar stage, it will be taking up this chemical from a poisonous weed, and that's when it becomes distasteful and hence is avoided by the predator. Okay, next, mimicry. Mimicry is something that sometimes you might get confused with camouflage, but don't do that. Okay, don't get confused. In camouflage, as I have clearly marked, here the organism would try to hide itself or it will try to resemble with its surrounding objects. Okay, but in mimicry, one organism will try to mimic another organism by its smell, by its you can say voice, by its color. It will try to resemble another organism, and this another organism is going to be called as the model organism. The organism which is mimicking is called the mimic, and the other one which is getting mimicked, that is known as the model. Understood? So don't keep any confusion here. Here camouflage, it is going to resemble or it is going to hide itself, or it is going to take the image of a surrounding object. But in case of mimicry, it will be trying to resemble another organism. Okay, it is going to try to resemble another organism. That's the difference. Now see, it refers to the resemblance of one organism to another or objects among which it lives that secures its concealment, protection, etc. During mimicry, the subject is called mimic and the object it mimics is called model. Fine, understood this? A very important example for mimicry can be of another butterfly called viceroy butterfly. This viceroy butterfly, it mimics the monarch butterfly in its appearance. Someone who is not a professional will not be able to easily identify which is monarch and which is viceroy. That much resemblance is found in their appearance. And because the viceroy butterfly is going to resemble exactly like the monarch, it will also be, getting protection because it will also be then avoided by the predator. Right? Understood this? So this is an ideal example of mimicry. Viceroy butterfly mimicking the monarch butterfly, that's how it is also getting avoided by the predators. Understood? Next, warning coloration. Warning coloration is kind of, opposite of camouflage. In camouflage, what the organism is doing? It is trying to, intermingle with its background so that it does not come under the notice of the predator, isn't it? Warning coloration is exact opposite. In warning coloration, the organism will try to rather highlight itself. It will highlight itself with bold colors like red, orange, bright yellow or black or white. Okay, certain bright color patches will be found in the body of that animal, due to which it will look very, ferocious. It will look very, harmful in nature. Due to those bright colors and due to those bright color markings in the body of that animals, those animals kind of will look, very ferocious, or they will look very dangerous, due to which the predators will try to avoid them, catch up a fight with them. Okay, that's the thing. In camouflage, they are trying to hide themselves in the background. In case of warning coloration, they are trying to show off. I hope all of you are very clear about this 4, animal defenses that we have discussed. These are very important for exam. So I hope I am able to clear all your doubts related to these terms. Okay. Now let us start with plants. About plants, they have also evolved with variety of morphological and chemical defenses against their herbivore predators, which include nearly 25% of all insects known as phytophagous and other animals that are the browsers or grazers. Now see, for plants it is the herbivores or even the insects. There are around nearly 25% of all insects which feeds upon plant sap, okay, or plant parts. So because of that, they are known as phytophagous insects. So phytophagous insects or animals like, cows, buffaloes, goats, okay, which are grazers or browsers, they all fall under the category of predators for plants. Okay. Presence of thorns. This is a very, very common example. Presence of thorns in acacia or cactus, that's a very important defense in plants to avoid, grazers or browsers. Likewise, production and storage of highly toxic chemical like cardiac glycosides. This is very, very, very important mention. Cardiac glycoside is a highly toxic or poisonous substance found in certain plants like Calotropis. Okay. What it actually does is that upon introduction in the body, it will increase the heart rate or heart pumping. And how it would do so? By inducing the sodium potassium ATPase pump. Okay. So in that case, in overdose situations, the heart rate will increase too much. That would again lead to heart attack and finally death. Understood? So cardiac glycoside is so toxic that it has the ability to even kill the predator. Understood? So that's why such plants are going to be easily avoided by the predator, and hence it is going to be, guaranteeing survival. Fine. Cardiac glycoside is a chemical which is also used, for various types of treatments. It's a medicine. In certain specific doses, when administered, it can be treating various cardiac, or rather heart ailments. Likewise, it can be also used for treatment of cancer. But that's a altogether different issue. But then do remember, it's a very important defense mechanism in plants. Last point is certain other chemicals like nicotine, opium, caffeine, quinine, etc. are produced as defense against grazers and browsers. All these names, nicotine, opium, caffeine, quinine, all of these are popular names because they have a huge commercial benefit. These chemicals are extracted from the plants and are used as, medicines, or they are used as inducers, isn't it? And they are used as beverages, right? So in that case, they are very important commercially. But actually, the plant at the first place was making such chemicals as a defense mechanism. These kind of chemicals will make the plant not very palatable to the animals or the grazers or browsers. That's how they can be saved or protected. Understood? So by these important discussion, I hope all of you have understood predation clearly and without any kind of doubts. So next class we'll be discussing competition, which is also a very important population interaction. Thank you.